Welcome back, triathletes, and hopefully some trail runners as well. And in this video we're going to take a look at the very popular and almost iconic Salomon Speedcross 4 and tell you why this shoe here might just be the perfect shoe for you, or why it might not. Let's start by looking at how the Speedcross 4 has moved on from the Speedcross 3 to make an even better shoe. And this is borne out in three areas, I think. The first is in the toe box, and if you're used to the 3, you will notice immediately that it's a lot more rounded, and it was a reasonably common criticism, unless you had very narrow feet, that the Speedcross 3 pinched a bit on the toes and you lacked room to move them. So a good step forward, an improvement from a very good shoe to an even better shoe. Well done, Salomon. The second point is the tongue, and the tongue on the 3 was a very large, thick affair. Well, it's smaller on the 4. Having said that, it is still pretty significant. It's very padded. It's a major part of the upper of the shoe. So yes, it is a bit smaller. There are better tongues out there. And number 3 is the sole, and you'll recognise the sole, I'm sure, but the difference here from the 4 to the 3 is that the 3 on the side lugs had half cut lugs, and the issue that came about with this was that after say 100 miles, 150 miles, the lugs started to wear and there was a lack of stability in the outside or the outsole of the shoe. All the evidence suggests that by putting whole lugs here, the wear is lessened and the shoe remains a little bit more stable for longer, although we'll come to stability in a moment. Now that we've got to the sole, let's take a look at the grip and what we've got here. Those that know Salomon will be used to this lug pattern. It's a very grippy running forwards pattern, and if we look at the heel, it's inverted to give you that bit of grip going down. There is no doubt in my mind that this is probably the best shoe for going straight up or down slopes, be they mud, gravel, grit, track, almost you name it. My one criticism is in the grip of the sole against smooth, slippy rock. Is it less good than many others? Probably not, but we set high standards by the Salomon, and I've certainly gone up slippy rock and had my foot go from under me. So straight line up down, this is possibly the best gripping sole that is on the market. Where it falls down a little is on camber, where we're having to work on the side of the shoe. Now, again, to be fair, most trail shoes suffer from here. Unless they have a radial design, like for example this Scott Supertrack RC here, unless they have a radial design, all shoes are going to suffer to some degree. And it's fair to say that the sort of chevroned, arced, triangular, whatever you want to call it, arrowhead lugs on this shoe certainly give it a little bit of side, but it does lose a little bit of grip on that side motion. Now, this combines with what is actually quite a high shoe, and if you have weak lateral ligaments in the ankles, or you're that sort of runner that wants real stability in the shoe, you might find this a little unstable. And if you combine that to what happens when you start running around on a cambered track at all, then the stability of the shoe, it's not perfect. To be more precise, the stack in the heel is 30mm and in the 4 it's 20mm. That's quite high. A normal trail shoe might have a heel stack in the sort of 22, 22.5, 23mm. So it's quite a high stack with a 10mm drop. Again, a lot of trail shoes work on the 5mm type area drop. You're not running on the flat a lot, and when it comes to going up and down hills, a lot of runners like less of a drop in their shoe. So combination, it's quite a high shoe with quite a big drop. Just moving from the sole to the midsole again. Construction here is an EVA, so yep, tried and tested, and it does the job really well. On top of the shoe, you will see that Salomon are using their quick lace system. It's very efficient. I quite like it. It has its critics, but I find it gives a really even and balanced draw on the top of the shoe. Clearly, if you're somebody who wants to create a tight point because of the shape of your foot, you're probably not going to like this quite so much. It's a very rounded lacing system, which in turn means that it moves really quite freely compared to a flat lace. In the top of the tongue, there's a little pocket, my finger's in there now, which means that you can tuck away the lacing element, the plastic bit at the top, and it doesn't flap around and annoy you. And one final thing, the top material is what Salomon call their anti-debris mesh, and it works really well. In terms of weight, it's a pretty light shoe. Salomon make a claim of 300 grams per shoe. So if you're looking at sort of Innovate doing their 250 or their 220, it's a bit heavier than them, but it's not a really heavy shoe. And you look at the chunkiness and how well made it is, and let's face it, this is a really well made shoe with great protection around the toe. Let's just go over there and check the weight, shall we? So here we are with the scales zeroed. Let's just place the Speedcross 4 onto the scales, and we have a reading of 312 grams. Now, let's face it, there is a bit of dirt in the sole here, so that might be a gram or two. And also, when companies put out their weight, it's normally based around a size 8 to 8.5 UK, 42 to 42.5 European, and this is a size 9 UK, or a size 43. Or is it? Salomon, if you look inside their tongue, seem to not quite work. Let's just see if you can read this. I don't know if you can, whether it will get there. Maybe, maybe not. But Salomon don't seem to quite agree with standard sizing, where a 9 UK is a 43 European, 9.5 US, and Japanese, let me just check this, 27.5. If you look in the tongue, this says 43.5. So it says 9 UK, 9.5 US, 27.5 Japanese, but it's not a 43, it's a 43.5. Now, I'm sure Salomon have got an answer to this. And to be honest, I don't really care. My point is that this is a bigger shoe than that will have been measured, and to state 300 grams, I have no problem with that whatsoever. Yeah, it's a pretty light, for a chunky, solidly built shoe, it's a pretty light shoe. Now, sizing. This is where I have my issue with the Salomon. Let's face it, it's a damned good shoe with a great grip, certainly up and down and in pretty much any condition you can think of, and it's really well made. But sizing. My normal shoe size is an 8. I normally run in an 8.5, 42.5 European. This is a 9. It's Salomon's 43.5, but it's a 9/43, and I still find this quite tight. A 42.5 or an 8.5, it was uncomfortably tight, and I couldn't get an 8 on. So to run a shoe, I'm wearing a shoe that's a size 9. It's a whole size big and is very long. It just doesn't feel right and fit right for me. Now, if you have narrow feet, I really do believe this is probably the shoe for you, and it's a brilliant shoe. If you have pretty normal feet, and I do have pretty normal feet, it's going to be a bit Marmite-y. You're going to love it or hate it, and if you like a tight grip round the top and the midfoot, you'll probably still love it, because you'll have that tight grip but also have the freedom to move your toes. So narrow feet, I don't think you'll have a problem. Normal feet, it'll be about how you like the feel of your shoes, and if you have fairly wide feet, I don't think you're going to get on with this shoe at all. There we have it, the Salomon Speedcross 4. One of the very best trail shoes out there, if it fits. So, if you've enjoyed this video, please give it the thumbs up. If you'd like to buy the Speedcross 4, then there's a link to Wiggle down below. And the beauty of using our links is that Real Life Reviews gets a tiny proportion of what you spend, and it helps keep the channel going. You also get access to some really good deals. At the end of the video, there will be links to a couple of videos. The one up there will be for the Innovate TerraClaw 250, which we've already got up and running, and hopefully the one up there, coming soon, very soon, is one on the Scott SuperTrack RC, which we've got testing at the moment, and it's done about 60-65 miles, but we want to get a little bit more into it. If you'd like to visit the website, where we've got links to a number of affiliates that you can investigate some shoes and possibly buy these shoes, then link to the video is down there. If you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, then click on the small picture down there. And as I said, Innovate's up there, and coming very soon, Scott's up there. Thanks for watching.